It all begins with a connection, because business is built on relationships, one connection at a time.
We're living in this virtual world where we have never been so connected to everybody, and yet we've never been so disconnected. And it doesn't matter how global, virtual, or specialized we become in our technology. I really believe that the one thing that has not changed is that your success
Is in direct proportion to your ability to connect.
People still buy from people they know, like, and trust. People still want to work with and for people they know, like, and trust. We are all in sales and marketing.
Our people skills are no longer just a nice thing to have. They really have become your greatest competitive advantage.
I know that you guys get connection. But today, I want to remind you of some ways that we can all up our game as leaders. And you're all leaders in this room, because leadership has nothing to do with your job title and everything to do with your state of mind.
And it doesn't matter if we call them soft skills, emotional intelligence, servant leadership. I don't care what you label it, but if we can't truly pay attention to someone who's right in front of us and help them identify their needs and their wants and help them grow, then we're in trouble. Human connection is key moving forward. And there's not an app for that.
And in the process, you'll awaken your awareness and build greater connection with everyone.
Let's say someone's sharing something with you and you've had a similar experience. It's not uncommon for you to then say, oh my goodness, yes, I know how you feel. But when you do that, even though you think you're being empathetic, a better way to say that is, wow, I can't even imagine how you feel. Tell me more. I believe it's you management, right? Because it's up to us to make these choices in order to stress less, connect more, laugh more, create more of a life that we want. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not ask for help when those moments arrive. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is the healthiest way to stay strong.
I have hired hundreds of speakers, and I will say Colette Carlson is at the top. She always over delivers. She customizes it for every single audience, and I have never seen anyone perform, connect, inspire, direct, and guide the audience the way she does. If you want to have confidence in who you hire to have on your stage, do not hesitate to hire Colette Carlson.
And then the marketplace continues to get much more competitive and crowded, which means that all of us are vying for the attention spans of individuals in a world where attention spans are not even existing anymore. In fact, how many of you have stopped listening to me already?
Now, do any of you have a truth teller in your life? Somebody who holds up the mirror to you and helps you realize what a whack job you really are?
Which was easier? No, the second way. You know why? Because you were in alignment. You were in alignment. Your thoughts, words, and actions were one and the same. You were walking your talk. And when we walk our talk, we build trust with those that we lead. And when there's more trust in our bodies, it actually comes out in the form of a chemical called oxytocin. I always have to be careful not to say Oxycontin. Oxytocin. When oxytocin is in your system, that's a bonding chemical, and so teams actually are more connected and collaborative.
I've hired Colette to come in for several different events, and what has me bring her back again and again is her props kit. It is hilarious, so it always shocks the audience and gets them excited, and it gets their buy-in because not only is it funny, but she works with me to research the event, research the audience that I'm bringing her in to speak to. It pulls them in while she's speaking, but also they hear her say these things that they're shocked to see, hey, here's a speaker that actually gets us. And more importantly is, well after the event is over, we see the impact of her message.
And now it's time to get on that Zoom call. That's right, get on that Zoom call and everybody has Zoom fatigue.
You're getting a phone call already. Oh, good news, it's a client. Oh, a client you worked with before that you wowed. Well, they want to be wowed again. You've got to come up with another wow. But guess what? The budget is a whoa.
You fire up your computer, but guess what? You're locked out because it's password changing day. You're very positive. You're like, come on, team, we can hit our numbers. Yes, I believe in you. But inside, you're like, get it done.
So I ask you, do you recognize this person?
Do you recognize this person? Do you recognize this person? So, question, how many of you think that your careers are going to demand a little less of you moving forward? So is it safe to say that there's some obstacles that are getting in the way of us communicating and connecting with one another, even when we know that we need to do it? But connected leaders, they ask questions. They listen to learn. Because once you think you know, you stop listening. There's a big difference between speaking your truth and speaking your mind. All right? When you speak your mind, it's about being right. When you speak your truth, it's about getting it right. Connection begins the second another person feels valued, and the fastest way to do that is through sincere appreciation. Research continues to show that a positive environment and someone feeling appreciated helps with their creative problem-solving abilities and their desire to stay engaged. I mean, it doesn't matter how old we are, sometimes we need a fist bump in life. So go be a human highlighter. So how are you celebrating your teams? And keep in mind, this doesn't have to be elaborate. I know teams that have a duct tape award, that they pass it around for whoever held it together that week. Connected leaders also share their story. Stories go past our head and into our hearts. They're sticky, they're memorable. In fact, they say that stories are 12 times more memorable than facts. Well, when you need to get buy-in from your team, I'm sure you're all savvy enough, you're telling them the why, but are you connecting it emotionally to a story?
My goal today is that we're going to break up with stress. That's it. And here's how we're going to make it happen. First of all, we need to get real about this concept of work-life balance. Because work-life balance is dead. As long as we have this image in our brains of these scales being balanced, we are always going to up our stress because we're setting ourselves up to achieve the impossible. So let's start calling it what it is. Work-life blend, work-life integration. How about life? The second thing that we really need to do if we're going to lower our stress is we've got to manage our expectations. Because the biggest mismatch in human stress is the difference between expectation and reality. And can we just start with our expectations around time? I mean, too many of us have this warped sense of how much we can really accomplish in a day. You know, the truth is, it doesn't matter how much we delegate, organize, prioritize, simplify, because we're never going to have enough time to get it all done, whatever it is for you, as long as you're growing your minds, growing your families, growing your relationships, growing your careers. We stress the most when we feel that we don't have the time, the energy, the resources, the creativity, or the skills to do what's in front of us. Sometimes when we are feeling the most out of control, we just need to stop, take a breath, and be mindful.
So let me give you some really practical ways to reset your mindset so that when you find yourself spinning, you can catch yourself and take back control by letting it go through a reset. Because if the answer is in your control, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take control. What we want to do is we want to minimize the gap between the moment that we start to feel some stress and the action that we take.
It's all about the power of connection. Thank you so much for letting me play with you. Thank you for your time and energy all morning long. Thank you.